The restaurant buzzed with energy. Laughter echoed across the room, glasses clinked, and soft music played in the background. Warm golden fairy lights dangled from the ceiling, casting a soft glow over the long table where my coworkers and I sat. Tonight was supposed to be special, my night. For 7 years, I have poured my heart into this company. I stayed late, solved problems no one else wanted, and mentored junior staff even when it wasn't part of my job. My boss Kevin had hinted for months that I was next in line for the senior manager role. I had imagined this night countless times, the announcement, the applause, the moment of recognition. I smoothed my navy blue dress and looked around the table. Everyone was cheerful, celebrating the company's recent success. Then Kevin stood up, tapping his wine glass with a fork to get our attention. The room fell silent, and my heart raced. Tonight, he began, his voice strong and confident, I want to acknowledge someone truly outstanding. In just 4 short months, this person has made a huge impact. My smile faded. 4 months? Kevin turned to Emma, the new hire. Emma, your leadership, creativity, and problem-solving skills have amazed us all. That's why I'm proud to promote you to senior manager. Congratulations. The room exploded with applause. I sat there frozen, gripping my champagne glass. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. Emma stood up, blushing, and accepted her new title with grace. This couldn't be real. Then Kevin turned to me as if suddenly remembering I existed. And Olivia, he said with a grin, you've been a valuable part of the team. We appreciate everything you do. That was it. 7 years of dedication summed up in a vague thank you. I smiled wider and raised my glass. Of course. Emma deserves it, I said, voice steady. Kevin nodded and added, she already does more than you. You could learn a thing or two. The group laughed. Emma looked uncomfortable and mumbled, oh, I wouldn't say that, but the damage was done. His words stung like a slap. I laughed too, because what else could I do? Cry? Beg? Ask why he dangled a promotion in front of me only to give it to someone new? No. Instead, I smiled, chatted, and pretended to celebrate. But inside, I was on fire. When the night finally ended, I stepped out into the cool air and pulled out my phone. My hands shook slightly as I typed out a short email. Subject, Resignation Letter Submission. Dear Kevin. Please find my official resignation letter attached, effective immediately. Best. Olivia. I hovered for a second, then hit send. And just like that, I felt it, relief. For the first time in years, I felt free. But I wasn't finished. When Monday morning came, I walked into the office with quiet confidence. Kevin had no idea what was waiting for him. My resignation letter was already sitting in his inbox. To him, everything seemed normal. The receptionist smiled, coworkers gathered by the coffee machine, and Emma was already settling into her new role. But the calm wouldn't last long. Because sometimes, when you underestimate someone for too long, they don't just walk away, they make sure you remember exactly who they were and what you lost. Emma sat at her desk, glowing with pride from her recent promotion. I didn't blame her. She hadn't done anything wrong. The real issue sat behind the glass walls of the corner office, Kevin, the man who had fed me lies for months. He made me believe I was valued, important, and next in line. But when the moment came, he discarded me like I meant nothing. I didn't rush. I calmly placed my bag beside my desk and powered up my computer, letting the usual routine settle me. I knew he'd come to me. And right on cue, his office door flew open. Olivia, my office. Now. The floor went still. Heads turned. Whispers stopped mid-sentence. No one had ever heard Kevin sound like that, urgent, confused, almost desperate. I stood slowly, smoothed out my blouse, and walked into his office. The door clicked shut behind me. He was already at his desk, my resignation letter printed and waiting in front of him. His eyes searched mine, trying to read me like a puzzle he couldn't solve. "You're leaving?" he asked, disbelief dripping from his voice. "Yes," I replied calmly, sitting across from him. "Effective immediately." "But why?" "This is out of nowhere. We didn't even talk about it." I let out a quiet laugh. "We didn't talk about Emma's promotion either, yet here we are." His jaw clenched. "Olivia, that wasn't personal. She just outperformed you." "She's been here 4 months," I said, tilting my head slightly. "But sure, if that's what you believe." He leaned forward. "You know I appreciate you, right? You've been a key part of this team for 7 years. I don't want to lose you." I stared at him, letting his words hang in the air. "You don't want to lose me," I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "But you had no problem overlooking me. No issue laughing at me during a party that was supposed to be for my promotion. And you certainly had no problem telling me to take notes from someone who's barely finished onboarding." His confidence cracked slightly. He ran a hand through his hair. "Look, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I didn't handle it right. But quitting like this, it's rash, Olivia. Emotional." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "I sent that email Friday night, Kevin. If this was just emotion, I would have walked out right then. But I didn't. I stayed. I planned. And now, I'm leaving on my terms." His hand curled into a fist on the desk. He wasn't used to losing. "So what's your plan?" he asked sharply. "Going to a competitor? Don't forget we have non-compete agreements." I laughed softly. "Oh, I'm not going to a competitor." He blinked. "Then what?" I stood. "While you were busy ignoring my work, someone else wasn't." His eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" I took a breath, savoring the moment. "Remember Matthew Evans, the CFO you pushed out last year?" Kevin stiffened. Of course he remembered. Matthew had been one of the company's strongest leaders until he and Kevin clashed one too many times. "Well," I continued, "he reached out a few months ago. He's building something new, his firm. He offered me the role of director of operations." Kevin's mouth parted slightly, but no words came out. "I turned him down at first," I added, "out of loyalty to this place. To you. But Friday night changed everything. I called him right after the party, and he offered the position again," I said. "This time I accepted." Silence. Pure, stunned silence. Kevin looked at me like his brain had just crashed, struggling to absorb what I'd said. "You're leaving for Matthew's company?" he finally asked, his voice strained. "I start next Monday," I replied with quiet certainty. He opened his mouth to speak, then shut it again. After a heavy breath, he leaned forward. "Olivia, be reasonable. This company has been your home for 7 years. We can fix this. Let's just talk." "I don't want to talk," I said smoothly, cutting him off. "There's nothing left to discuss. My decision is final." His jaw clenched. "You know you won't be able to come back." I smiled, calm and unshaken. "I won't need to." Then I turned and walked to the door. Just before stepping out, I paused and looked back over my shoulder. "You know, Kevin, it's funny how people only realize someone's value after they're already walking away." And with that, I closed the door behind me, leaving him alone with the mess he created. It felt amazing. When I stepped out of his office, the entire floor was quiet. The usual Monday hum had vanished. Conversations had stopped. People stared, eyes peeking over cubicle walls, quickly looking away when I met their gaze. They knew something had happened. And soon, they'd know exactly what. I walked back to my desk with the kind of calm that only comes from finally being free. I opened my email, attached the resignation letter, and forwarded it to the entire leadership team. Subject: official resignation, effective immediately. I am stepping down from my position at the company. It has been an experience I will not forget. Best. Olivia. Short, professional, but the message was loud and clear. I'm done. Within seconds, whispers began to ripple across the floor. First a few, then more, until it was like a quiet wildfire spreading from one corner to the next. It didn't take long for someone to approach me. Olivia, is it true? I turned to see Carolyn, one of the few people here I genuinely trusted. She looked shocked. I nodded, offering a soft smile. Yeah. It's time. She let out a slow breath, shaking her head. Wow. I mean, I get it, totally. But still. I didn't think you'd leave. Neither did Kevin, I said under my breath. Carolyn gave a small laugh, half amused, half bitter. He's an idiot. Everyone here knows you earned that promotion. More coworkers hovered nearby, pretending to organize papers or check emails while trying to listen. Even Emma popped her head up from across the room, her eyes darting between me and Kevin's office like she wasn't sure whether to feel guilty or relieved. I could see it in her face. She wanted to say something, maybe apologize, maybe explain. But she didn't. And I didn't care anymore. 14 minutes later, just as I packed up the last of my things, my inbox pinged again. Subject: urgent, let's talk. Meeting request, 20 minutes. Location: my office. Eyes stared at the screen for a moment, and I sighed. Desperate men do desperate things. I took my time heading back to his office. When I stepped inside, the door clicked shut behind me once again. But this time, Kevin looked different. The arrogance was gone. So was the smugness. He looked like a man who had just realized he made a huge mistake. Olivia, he began, leaning forward, let's talk about this. You're making a rash decision. I let out a soft, dry laugh. Kevin, I gave this place 7 years of my life. Worked hard. Stayed late. Helped people. The only rash decision made here was yours. His mouth tightened. Look, I'll admit I mishandled things with the promotion, but we can fix this. I'll match whatever Matthew's offering you, Kevin said quickly. I tilted my head. You don't even know what Matthew offered me. Does it matter? He snapped. We'll figure it out, a higher salary, more flexibility, whatever it takes. I raised my hand to stop him. You still don't get it, do you? The room fell silent. I leaned forward slightly. It was never about the money, Kevin. It was about respect. His jaw tensed. He still didn't understand. I don't want to work at a place that only notices my value when I threaten to leave, I continued. You don't get to appreciate me just because I've already walked halfway out the door. If I wasn't worth it before, why should I believe I suddenly am now? His face tightened, nostrils flaring slightly. He was losing control of the conversation, and he knew it. Olivia, be reasonable, he tried again. You're giving up a stable job for what? A risky startup that might not even last? I smiled calmly. That startup is run by someone who actually sees what I bring to the table. I'd rather take a chance on that than stay somewhere I'm treated like I'm replaceable. I stood up and looked him in the eyes. Goodbye, Kevin. And I walked out. Packing up the last of my things felt strangely surreal. As I carried the box toward the elevator, a few coworkers clapped softly, quiet nods, small smiles, subtle signs of solidarity. They knew what had happened. Emma, still sitting at her desk, finally stood up and walked over. "Olivia, I didn't know," she said softly. I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't know what?" Her mouth opened, then closed. She didn't have an answer. Of course she knew. Maybe she hadn't asked for the promotion, but she hadn't questioned it either. "It's fine, Emma," I said, not unkindly. "Enjoy the promotion." She flinched a little, but I was already stepping into the elevator. As the door slid shut, I exhaled slowly. This wasn't just the end of something, it was the beginning. The Monday after I left Kevin's office for good, I stood outside a modern glass building, taking in the name on the front, Evans and Associates. Matthew's company was smaller than my old one, but it felt different, alive, driven. It wasn't a place that ran on autopilot. It was full of people who were building something with purpose. As I walked through the doors, I felt something I hadn't in years, excitement. No more being overlooked. No more proving myself just to be taken seriously. And most importantly, no more Kevin. Inside the elevator, my reflection in the polished doors stared back at me. I looked different. Stronger. Steadier. More confident. This wasn't just a new job. This was freedom. My new office was bright, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a door I could close. It was mine. The morning flew by with introductions, meetings, and onboarding. But it felt energizing, not exhausting. People actually listened here. During my first leadership meeting, Matthew looked over at me and smiled. "Olivia, I'd like you to take the lead on our new operations initiative. We're restructuring, and with your background you're the best person for the job." Just like that. No graveling, no endless convincing, no drama. They knew what I brought to the table. I nodded, keeping my voice calm. "I'd love to." Around the table I caught a few approving smiles. Matthew gave me a short nod, like this was exactly what he expected me to say. This was how it should be, no politics, no games, just trust and respect. The first sign that Kevin's world was cracking came just 3 days after I left. My phone buzzed with a message from Carolyn. "Carolyn, OMG Olivia, Kevin is losing it since you left, it's chaos." I smirked. Of course it was. But I kept reading. "Carolyn, he had to call an emergency meeting. Nobody knows how to handle half the things you used to do. Turns out Emma doesn't do more than you, she doesn't even know what she's doing." I laughed out loud. Of course Kevin had overestimated Emma and completely underestimated me. He thought I was replaceable. Now he was learning the hard way that I wasn't. Another message popped up. "Carolyn, oh, and get this, 5 clients have already reached out asking for you by name. They're not happy you left." A slow wave of satisfaction washed over me. After years of being overlooked and dismissed, Kevin was finally feeling the fallout of his own choices. Some people, as it turns out, can't just be replaced. That afternoon I was deep in a strategy review in my new office when my assistant appeared at the door. "Olivia, you've got a call on line 1. A company called Robinson and Company. They said they used to work with you and want to discuss moving their account." I blinked. Robinson and Company was one of the biggest clients at my old firm. "Put them through," I said calmly, though my heart thudded in my chest. A moment later a familiar voice came through the line. "Olivia," said Jeffrey Robinson, his tone warm and familiar. "I heard you've joined Evans and Associates. Let's talk." I leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. "Of course, Jeffrey, what can I do for you?" By the end of the week, 5 of my old company's top clients had reached out to me. All of them saying the same thing: "It's not the same since you left. We don't feel like we're in good hands anymore. If you're leading operations at Evans and Associates, we want in." And one by one, they moved their business. I wasn't trying to steal clients. I didn't have to. They came to me on their own because they trusted me, not the company I used to work for. And Kevin? He was spiraling. Caroline kept the updates coming. Carolyn, Emma's drowning. She's not ready for the role at all. I heard Kevin yelling at the exec team behind closed doors this morning. Now the board's angry. Investors are furious about the client losses. They're putting pressure on him to fix this fast. I could imagine his face, red, stressed, panicking. And the best part? I wasn't even doing anything to him. I was just succeeding somewhere else. That Friday, just as I was shutting down for the day, my phone buzzed with a new email from Kevin. Subject, a proposal. Olivia, I'd like to have a conversation. I believe we can come to a mutually beneficial arrangement. If you're open to it, let's schedule a meeting next week to discuss options. Looking forward to your response. I leaned back in my chair and let out a quiet laugh. He was desperate. And for the first time in 7 years, I held all the power. I stared at the screen, letting the moment settle in. The man who once dismissed me, laughed at me, and told me Emma already does more than you, was now asking for a meeting. His world was falling apart, and he knew exactly why. I took my time drafting a response, no urgency, no emotion, just control. Subject, a proposal. Kevin. I'm available for a brief meeting on Monday at 9 a.m. Let me know if that works for you. Best. Olivia. I hit send. Then I closed my laptop and smiled. It was only just beginning. I wasn't walking into that meeting to negotiate. I was walking in to watch him squirm. At exactly 9 a.m., I stepped into the same glass building I had walked out of weeks ago. It looked the same, but everything felt different. The receptionist hesitated before greeting me, unsure whether I was a visitor or a ghost from the past. I could feel eyes on me as I walked by, whispers, glances. Everyone knew why I was there. And then I stepped into Kevin's office. He looked awful, dark circles under his eyes, fidgeting fingers tapping on the desk. The arrogant man who once dismissed me was gone, replaced by someone who looked worn down and nervous. Thanks for coming in, he said, forcing a tight smile. I sat down, calm and composed. I crossed my legs, folded my hands in my lap and said, of course. What's on your mind? He exhaled, trying to steady himself, and leaned forward. I won't waste your time. We need you back, Olivia. I didn't say a word. I let the silence sit, let the weight of his words settle in the space between us. I underestimated your role here. I'll admit that. But we can fix this, he went on. If you return, I'm prepared to offer a substantial raise, a senior executive title, and full authority over your department. He sat back like he'd just laid out the deal of the century, waiting for me to be impressed. I wasn't. I tilted my head slightly. So let me get this straight. You had 7 years to recognize my value. 7 years to promote me. 7 years to respect the work I did. And instead, you gave the job to someone with 4 months of experience, then told me to take notes. I paused, letting the truth hang in the air. And now that the company's bleeding clients and falling apart, you're suddenly offering me what I should have had all along? Kevin's jaw tightened. Olivia, come on. I raised a hand and cut him off. Let me ask you something. If I never left, would you be offering me this now? Would this promotion be out of appreciation or just desperation because you're losing control? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. I saw it in his eyes, the truth he couldn't admit. He never saw my worth until it cost him everything. I let out a soft laugh. That's what I thought. His calm cracked. Olivia, be smart. You have history here. A future. Do you want to throw away all the years you put into this company? I stood up, brushing my blazer smooth. I leaned in just slightly. No, Kevin. You still don't get it. I'm not the one who needed this company. You needed me. And now you're finally realizing that. His face darkened, but I saw it, the panic behind his eyes, the fear of what he'd lost, of what he couldn't get back. I turned and walked to the door. Just before stepping out, I paused and glanced over my shoulder. You should take notes, Kevin, I said softly, echoing the words he once threw at me. Maybe next time you'll learn to value the people who keep your company running. Then I walked out. And this time, I didn't look back. At Evans & Associates, things were better than ever. Our client list had nearly doubled. More and more companies were leaving Kevin's sinking ship and coming to us instead. We were growing fast and solid. And then, one quiet Friday afternoon, Carolyn sent me one final message that made me laugh out loud. Carolyn, Kevin just got fired. The board forced him out. They couldn't recover from all the client losses. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee. Perfect. Kevin had thought I was the replaceable one. Turns out it was him all along.